basement. I wanna make greatness look complacent. Adrenaline awakened, I can taste it. We can make an impact, grab and then take it.
What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another live stream. Happy Wednesday, everybody. We've got a big fight card at UFC Fight Night London, the second time in the UK this year so far. We've got Marcin Tybura welcoming back surging prospect at heavyweight Tom Aspinall after, man, it was, I think, come fight night, Tim, it's going to be 366 days since that horrific knee injury he suffered at the hands of Curtis Blades that gave him his first UFC defeat, but he returns, still a young man at, I think, like 30 years old here, so hopefully he can throw his hat in the arena of a title contender at the weight class. A grand total of 15 fights here to sift through. There's going to be a lot of betting spots, so glad to have with me the Prince of Props, the liaison of live betting, Tim Troiano himself. Usually you guys have to wait until Friday night on the Lambo Plays Podcast. You got to wait till Sean Orr's live Twitter Spaces on Saturday, but I got him right here for you guys on a Wednesday night, so we are blessed. How you doing, Tim?
I'm awesome, Patrick. Thanks again for having me back on.
Dude, of course, man. Great guest. We had the last time it was you and I doing a show together was, I think it was UFC San Antonio, and we killed it that night. Even called some split decisions in your honor and just swept the board there. So hopefully we do this again. Like I said, we got a lot of fights to sift through, so don't have to really be too heavily invested in all of these. We can kind of pick our spots and snipe this card in a very precise way. So are you looking forward to this one in particular?
Yeah, there's a couple fights I'm interested in. I think that this is not your typical fight night card. I think they're giving us a little bit more juice and some meat on the bone here. So I think I'm excited about that. Usually some of these last fight night cards have been pretty horrible. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, this is a great departure from a couple weeks ago where we had like a lot of minus 1,000 favorites. Now we've got a lot of closely lined fights that are flipping from underdog to favorite, just teetering that line of even money. And man, you could argue for a lot of underdogs on this card. So I can't wait to break into it with you. We can just go through the chat real fast. I see my guy Mushroom MMA in the house. And what is up, Patrick and Tim? My girl Jenna Marie, her and I were just holding on the fort on Effie from the Any Action Sportscast stream just before this. So I was on my way back home driving. I caught Effie's stream. Maybe he'll make it in here. Good to see you, Jenna. Rob Lawrence in the house saying, hey, Mushroom and Pat, Tim, let's leave the bookies owing money to the other bookies. That is the goal, man. How you been doing the past couple weeks, Tim? You've been cashing some Lambos?
Yeah, last week was great. We hit 6 Lambos out of I don't know how many fights there were last week, but it was a great week.
Yeah, it looked like it, man. I've been on back-to-back almost. Man, last week was just one split decision call away from a full sweep for back-to-back weeks. I had that Duraev Julian Park sprinkle on the split decision, but obviously we did not need that. We got Julian Park doing the Iron Turtle dance instead, not leaving it in the hands of the judges. We got Daz Files in the house saying, let's fucking go. We got Kristen in here as well. Subhuman Gaucho. We got Sicky Does MMA. Everybody go check out his channel. He drops awesome breakdowns in his. I saw his at work this morning, and he actually does like visuals with his breakdowns where he'll be talking about a fight, concisely breaking it down, and he'll have like highlight reels of the fighters actually competing that he's talking about. So I love that format. Keep on doing good work, my friend. And yeah, I mean, you should be excited about Shauna Bannon. That she's from your neck of the woods, I think, Sicky, right? You excited about Bannon being the new female Conor McGregor coming out of that country? But we'll talk about her in a bit. The Prince of Props is an excellent nickname. That is the new name for and I hope you enjoyed the new Brad Pitt thumbnail. I put a new one.
I loved it. I laughed so hard when I saw it. I laughed so hard.
The Cliff Booth from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That was awesome.
I thought it was fitting, man. Do you own any jean jackets like that?
I don't know, but I should. I need to buy one if I don't, right?
Absolutely. Sicky says no about Shauna Bannon. She absolutely sucks. That's a bit harsh. Come on now. But we will break into it, dude. I'm very excited for this card. I love heavyweight main events. I was a big supporter of Tom Aspinall, man. I remember having a big, juicy set of parlays all hinging on him, and then it all fell apart in like 15 seconds flat. So hopefully we can recover that this week. But we start at the bottom of this 15-fight card at flyweight. We've got Filho taking on Daniel Barez. The Brazilian from Nova União, the grappler in Jafel Filho we saw against Muhammad Makayev make his debut as a big underdog, and damn near almost got it done in round 3 with a vicious knee bar, but then he got submitted himself right after that. Daniel Barez we saw in a very close and amazing fight back and forth with Carlos Hernandez a couple years ago in the Contender Series, but he's come back with 4 consecutive round 1 stoppages. The guy is an excellent striker, but he's got solid wrestling. He's a BJJ brown belt himself, coming out of Mexico's Entram gym. So right now the odds are still pretty much even on this fight. We've got Daniel Perez, a slight underdog, plus 110. We've got Jafel Filho, minus 130, the slight favorite. I see a lot of opinions either way in this fight. I myself fall on the underdog side of things. I like Daniel Perez. I like the way he rips to the body, exposes the head. He's very accurate with his strikes and swarms on you. And I think his takedown defense should be good enough to not engage in that aspect of MMA with Jafel Filho. But it does make me nervous, Tim, because Daniel Perez has that kind of like ingrained habit of he knocks you down or he stumbles you. He wants to engage in the wrestling. He loves mixing it up with level changes. Probably not wise to do so against Filho. What do you think about this fight in general? I don't have any money line bets on this one, but I'm considering putting one down on Perez.
Yeah, I'm actually with you. I think this is a fight where Barez is better than him everywhere. Actually, I'm not like, I think this sets up weird. It's like there's a lot of fighters that you'll see these fights where like there's an underdog. It's like a huge fucking underdog that they perform out their ass, and you're just like, okay, what do we just see here? This plus 500 or plus whatever, plus 600 or 700. Just comes close, like last week with the dude fighting with Hafez, right? Like it's the same exact thing, right? These guys, the next fight, people are gonna just completely overvalue this guy potentially.
You think it's going to be that way with Diego Lopez and Movsar Evloev next time?
Exactly. Like you see these guys that the lines are bad and they're just like way out of whack because it's short notice, and these guys are like moving up weight or whatever, and they just outperform and they hit their ceiling performance-wise in a fight where they're probably in their mind knowing that if they don't fight that way, they're going to get killed. So it's so easy to perform at your ceiling in that stage. So I think that for me, I think like this is easy to like paying the most that you would have to pay for Filho right now. And Barez, you're getting it like kind of a discount too. So I think Barez is better kind of everywhere. I'm not scared of him on the ground. If he takes him down, I think he's better wrestler. I think he's a better striker. I think he's, I just think he's just better everywhere. I do. Obviously, there are submissions. I think he's got better cardio as well. I just think that there's a lot of areas where he's better. So I'm eventually going to have a money line bet on him, but I just want to wait and see what happens with the line if people, keep buying in on, where it goes. Cause right now I'm just going to sit.
For a flyweight fight, does the age of these guys bother you at all? I know Daniel Perez, he still looks like he's got incredible speed, cardio, and everything, but he's 34 years old, making a debut. Do you think he's this is still a playable line? Does that kind of get you off of this? How much you want to invest on it at all?
I had him at 32. Is he 34?
Let's see here. I didn't actually check at the dates. I know sometimes Tapology has it wrong. Typology says 34. It's saying his date of birth is 1988, December. So yeah, that's 34.
Oh, 34. Yep. My bad. I wrote it down.
That's odd. That is, I've seen on Tapology though. I've seen where the age is completely wrong, the number, but it doesn't line up with the date of birth at all.
Yeah, he's 30. Yeah, he's 34. That does concern me a little bit, but not at this stage right now. I mean, I just think that, same thing. I just think he's better everywhere. And I think I would be putting plus money on him and money line right now. I just want to see where it goes.
Okay, I'll probably join you on that. I'm glad to hear that on it. As far as like the finishing props go, or the unders in this spot, because both guys finished a large majority of their bouts by stoppage, especially Jafel Filho. Is that something you would target along with the money line? Would you target like an inside the distance for Barez? That I want to say that's got to be big. That's got to be over plus 300 on that. I know by KO is plus 550. Or would you target that or target the unders, or would you just stick with that money line bet on your read?
I think the unders would be the way that I would play it. Just because, if Barez does not, the game plan for Fiala is obviously going to be to try to get it to the ground. And it's not like Barez is like invincible on the ground. So I don't want to inflate the guy like he's some god. This is like a 50-50 fight for a reason. But I think that like the path for both of the guys is to finish. I mean, they both are notorious, like good finishers. When they get people in their realm, they go aggressively and they're not very passive. There's certain guys later on in the card I'll say the opposite. So yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, no, I think that I lost my concentration. Go ahead.
Pull up the comment. Mushroom says Tim hits tennis mom splits all the time. I mean, that says it all right there, man. Of course, any action FE paying homage to the Ric Flair cutoff I got, man. Yeah, man, you got to. Yeah, we got Dixon Cider. What's up? Ice Viking as well. Sicky saying hit the like button. SD Crusader in the house as well. We got Mushroom McGreen who's 34. Any action FE said he's old as fuck. Yeah, so man, it is a back and forth fight, but I think we're on the same side of this one. Plus 110 on the money line now. I might actually just hammer that for at least a unit just to kick off the night, kind of get a taste for how things are going. But I like the unders here too, and they always showcase these violent spots as the first fight of the night. So, man, we can move right along up the card. We have this is what I was talking about before, man. Ireland's own undefeated Shauna Bannon making her debut at 5-0 from Ireland. She's taking on Bruna Brazil, who's making her second walk to the UFC cage. Women's 115, we've got two strikers with very kick-heavy games if you watch their fights. Bruna Brazil with that Muay Thai technique, but she throws a lot of like almost Taekwondo-esque flashy strikes, but that's the background of Shauna Bannon, who's coming from a kickboxing family, something she's been involved with for her whole life, but now she is rounding out her MMA game. It's a long amateur record too, but level of competition for both women, not the greatest, I would say. So this could be a close fight, Tim. Do you lean any certain way on this one? I know the odds have it where I think Bruna Brazil has been bet all the way to minus 150. Shauna Bannon in her debut plus 130. How do you see this fight playing out?
I kind of agree with the line movement. I don't think that there's any way that, like, I mean, Shauna's just green. She's really green. There's not a lot of, like tape of her fighting anybody's quality level in, it's like the Ireland scene, the Ireland regional scene coming out, and now she's in Invicta fights and shit like that. It's just like, if you can land a takedown and have remotely good jiu-jitsu and hold somebody down in Invicta, you're going to win like 80% of your fights. So I think that that's basically like her path in this situation. I mean, fight ends in split, obviously, in this fight. Bruna, I agree. Bruna should probably win this fight. She's better. I think she's better kind of like the last fight everywhere, minus maybe defense off like striking. Her striking defense is kind of poor. She doesn't like people who blitz. Obviously, last fight was a clear indication of that. But I think, like you said, it's more kicks and it's more like just pitter patter, like not really huge shots. I think if somebody's going to land a fight ending kick, it's going to be Brazil. She sets up her shots better. I also think that Brazil has like sneaky big, like hindsight, big favorite upside. Whereas I don't see that on the other side. So it's like, you're getting a close fight. And at the end of the fight, you could say like, oh man, she was better on the feet. She was longer. She just was easier winning there. And she also could take her down, and she was better in the clinch. Like, she's just stronger. And later on the fight, you're just like, holy, she just looked like minus 300, minus 400. And we got her at minus 150. So I think it's way more likely that you get that from Brazil in this fight than you do from Shauna. So yeah.
And her name is Mama. Her name is like Mama B or something too. You can't really. That's. I got to talk to my guy Monk Maddox. He does his nickname show. He's got to roast that one. That's not the greatest. But dude, I'm going the other way on this one as far as a pick. I'm not really invested either way. But Shauna Bannon, it's hard to trust these people in their debut. But man, and like you said, the level of competition. It's not hard to hold somebody down and defend subs and just get that top control time in Invicta. But, dude, I mean, it's Bruna Brazil seems like she needs space to work with all those kick-heavy attacks, and it seems like all of the regional tape before the Dana White Contender Series, they just allowed her to kind of work and gave her room to breathe and, kind of style on them, whereas I think Shauna Bannon will be aggressive. She will push forward and at least offer some resistance and close that space. So I like how coachable she is too. You hear her getting instructions from Patty Houlihan. Whether that's going to translate to this fight with the loud O2 arena, I'm not sure. But she seems like she makes those mid-fight adjustments and does pretty well cardio-wise too. So going with Bannon here by decision. But man, I do agree with exactly with what you said. I think if Bruna Brazil wins, there's a good chance she could look a lot bigger of a favorite than she does. Whereas Bannon, I would just assume she squeaks by, does just a little bit more, control time on the cage. Maybe lands a few more counters and things like that. So
yeah, horrible split decision where everybody screams, "I can't believe I just lost this ticket." Bet easily.
Absolutely.
Pretty Irish girl that wins a decision against the Brazilian coming into town. Fuck, yeah. No way. I'm so surprised.
Yeah, exactly, man. Shout out to MMA Prediction Guru. Good to see you in here, man. I remember watching you from the odds.com days and those panels. Awesome to see you, man. Keep up the good work. He's like in Bruna Brazil. So, man, that's you're making me rethink this, man. I never felt like one way or the other about it too strongly, but in a fight, if it's kick versus kick at distance, I'd want to be on the plus money side, but it could be. If you do, I was trying to watch it like side by side on monitors to be like, who actually looks like they're the better like striker here. And Bruna Brazil certainly has that velocity to her strikes, but will she perform that way when she gets pressured? I'm not so sure. So we're kind of shaky on this one. But what's up, Shady? Good to see you in here. We need to get Mushroom. We do, man. I need to do some more work with him. At least do another watch along. That's the last time I worked with him, man. So one of these panels, we'll get him on here. Love my guy Mushroom. Any action? Effie saying I think Bannon sucks. Man, where's the love, dude? Where's the love? And can he parlay the over 1.5 in this fight? Dixon asks.
I would think it's pretty safe. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the finishing upside is probably a head kick bonk or like a liver kick from Brazil or something like that. I don't really see Bannon finishing her. Of course, now that happens, she's probably going to be like blitzer like Denise Combs.
Right, exactly. Just a one-step spinning roundhouse kick, 720 to the head, 15 seconds in.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm not worried about with Bannon. Is like she doesn't have she doesn't throw like hands, like really big hands. Like she kicks a lot, like you're saying, like, and she grapples and she tries to get people down. So I think that's the style of fighter like that. They're both going to be doing the same thing. It's just who's going to be better at it. And I just I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to put a ton of money on that fight at all.
Looking forward to seeing it though. But yeah, I think Bannon could have been one of those women that you easily could have seen in Bellator, on the undercard of one of those fight cards as well. So, but hey, let's shout out to 2 Cents, man. I got to catch the replay of the show you did with Aaron the dog. I didn't get a chance to see it. I was still caught up at work today. But good to see you, 2 Cents. We move on to another highly contested Twitter fight here. We've got the lightweight bout between Chris Duncan and Yanal Ashmouz, two guys who made their debuts back at UFC 286 earlier this year, and they both got victories. Chris Duncan, a split decision over Omar Morales, where he flipped the script and went like all wrestle-heavy offensive, whereas we saw him get in firefights at close-range striking before that in his previous bouts. On the Contender Series, Yanal Ashmouz, 7-0. He's a guy who knocked out Sam Patterson, a fellow debuting fighter that night, and it only took like 1 minute to do that big left hook that he landed on the way to the mat. So Yanal Ashmouz is a guy who, man, there's still a lot to learn about this guy, in my opinion. I watched all of his fights, and I just couldn't really gain too much of insight as to how good or bad he is. It's just nothing unremarkable really stuck out to me. Like he's a decent wrestler. His defensive wrestling, I thought, certainly improved fight to fight on route to the Contender Series, en route to his debut. But I mean, he's never really flashing that knockout power before the Sam Patterson fight, right? Like he's usually just kind of outpacing his opponents pre-UFC, and then he can get the TKO stoppage late in those fights. But it's usually when they slow down and his cardio is decent, so he remains, the more active fighter and can get ground and pound stoppages. Chris Duncan is a guy who's kind of like his chin is a magnet for punches, so I don't really want to back him at minus money here. He's minus 145, Ashmouz plus 125. It just seems like Duncan has a more of a variety to his game. I saw him have a wrestle-heavy offensive in his last fight, kind of flipped the script from what he was doing before that wasn't going his way, getting knocked out on the Contender Series almost twice, right? The Vyacheslav Borshev one ended the night for him, but his fight after that, he kind of, Charlie Campbell knocked him down, and he came back in that epic straight right victory for the comeback KO. Not a guy I really want to back here. I want to learn about these guys. I'll take Chris Duncan to do just a little bit more, but man, am I wrong? Is there something remarkable about Yanal Ashmouz that I'm missing, Tim?
I'm really not seeing it either. I'm on the same page with you. I'm not saying that I'm picking either side. I'm not good at picking these guys' fights. Like I've lost. I'm 0-2 in their fights. The last 2 fights. I didn't do Morales against him, but I was considering doing. I picked Morales, but I didn't bet him. It's the same thing. Like I mean, I had Campbell as my last leg of a parlay. Equals pain. Mass pain. He was on death's door. That's the thing that he's going to fight for your money. That you have to like that about Duncan. He may have like, I think he's got 41% striking defense, which is basically like your average 14-year-old girl. So it's not really solid. I just think that Duncan is like, he's a guy that I think that he's got probably some grapple advantage here, where like in the last fight, where this fight could be, I think Dixon Sider said like a fight ends by split. I might get a really good number on that, but this is definitely one of those fights where it's like everybody sees this as this fight is somebody's gonna get knocked out, and it's possible for sure, but it's also possible that like a guy that everybody was betting it was plus 200 plus or whatever against Patterson, and I had Sam by sub in that fight. So like I thought, I thought legit that he's gonna like, okay, if he does grapple and is smart, this is a path. So is it possible that Duncan does the same thing and just that he did against Morales? I mean, like there's no way that you can't tell me that if Morales wouldn't be a favorite lined up against Ashmouz before Ashmouz fights Sam Patterson. He's a significant underdog to Omar Morales. I don't give a shit what version, Dusty or not. He's a significant underdog to Omar Morales. True. So it's like you can't look at hindsight and then say, he's because of this. It's like, no, dude. It's like those would be the lines for sure. And now after he bonks this guy, now you're paying like, again, it's the same thing. It's like he had a huge performance in his debut. He wins it. Now you're paying decent money for him. And then you have kind of a okay performance and a win from Duncan against Morales, where he didn't have that great of a performance but wins, and you're like, all right, I think you're getting probably a low price on him. So I honestly have no idea who's going to win this fight. If you gun ahead, I would probably honestly pick Duncan, and I would go like by points or maybe even sub, honestly. Like he might get to positions if he is grappling a lot on this guy, where a lot of the things that I saw in Patterson wasn't like Patterson being some great savant on the ground. It was more like some of the things I was seeing with Ashmouz giving up his back and just making mistakes on the ground. So I don't know. I think that that's possible still here, but I just haven't seen a ton of that more from the Duncan side. I just think that he's kind of like a control or ground and pound kind of guy. And you know how these things set up, and you could ground and pound the shit out of somebody, they turn their back, give you your neck, and it's just over. So I don't know. I kind of lean for like points by Duncan though, and maybe GTD in this fight and be a little bit contrarian.
Yeah, I was looking at the unders and overs. I couldn't really get a good grasp on it. I was the same way as you. Like I could see Duncan just replicating that plan that worked last time and doing it here against Yanal. But yeah, I think you're right. I think people are putting a lot more stock in that Sam Patterson knockout than they should on the Ashmouz side. Got to learn. One of these guys hopefully makes a difference that we can kind of take note of for next time, when we can have a better read on their next fight and bet that one. For this one, probably won't have anything to do with it, but we're both on the Duncan side here. We saw a couple people, Daz and Sicky, both betting money behind Duncan, so they got more balls than we do so far. So I hope that you guys cash those bets, especially, Daz with 2 units on him. I think, same thing. Even money, good line on him too for Sicky, plus 100 on Duncan. And he's been training at ATT here and there, I think. So he's got some high-level training partners there as well. Hopefully they can coach him to, maybe blend those two aspects of his game together a little bit more smoothly. But we move forward to a fight where I think, again, this is another arguable fight back and forth, Tim. Women's bantamweight bout, Ketlen Vieira taking on Pani Kianzad. A fight where we've got two different styles of striker here. We've got Ketlen Vieira's. She does come from like a grappling base, but she does like to have that flat-footed plotting style where she looks for the big 3-2 counter kind of looks for the big counter that is the more eye-catching shots compared to Pannie Kianzad, who's more of a busy striker by far. Puts up a lot of points on the board, but they're not really the most respect-earning strikes. And both women are susceptible to getting held up against the cage here and possibly jockeying for position in that realm of things. So, yeah, I mean, this is another fight where I think it could go either way. I could see this going to split decision as well. I could see Pannie Kianzad coming out the victor at plus money. But when I broke down this fight, she was a much bigger underdog. She was like plus 170, plus 160. Now she's been moved all the way down to, man, we're looking at plus 120 on BetOnline, minus 140 for Vieira. So, I mean, I'm just not drawn to a side in this one. The level of competition for Vieira, I do value that quite a bit. But she's not like blowing anybody's socks off with her performances, but neither is Pannie Kianzad, who's having close fights with women that she probably shouldn't. So, God damn, I'll lean on the side of plus money again with Pannie Kianzad to squeak out a very close decision based on her points in the board. But she's got to avoid getting held up against the cage. She's got to keep her takedown defense strong like it has been so far. How do you see this fight playing out? Am I overlooking the power of Vieira in this one?
You might be. I don't know. This is one of those fights where I might wait like a half of a round to see the first clinch and then bet it live with way more confidence, just because I kind of want to see that first clinch and that first like attempted takedown. Okay. From obviously, if she gets the takedown, you're going to be seeing a massive number. Like you're going to miss it. But like just how the first clinch and like who's clearly just stronger physically, that's going to be huge for me. Yeah. I lean pre-fight. I lean that Ketlin is stronger physically. So I just think that to me, I think that she's going to get positions because Pannie has to get in to range to do her little pop shots and have her volume. That's why against certain fighters that she's struggled against, they've gotten her down and they've been able to hold her down. She's really not great at getting up. So I kind of feel like I would be on the Ketlin side. Like if you're, forcing a bet on it, I'm not doing anything yet with this. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to kind of wait live and attack with a little bit more knowledge, which I always feel is kind of like smarter to do. I think everybody's like so eager to get their money in before the fight starts and like say, hey, I got this bet. I've track this bet. It's It's like, I feel like it's sometimes so much better to just not bet a fight pre and to watch 2 minutes or 3 minutes and to potentially even lose, like, no joke, like to even lose like 50 cents to $1 on the line, but no, she's stronger. Be like, all right, I'll pay 2-1. Like, I don't give a shit. Like it's like betting tennis. Like Djokovic 2-1. He lost a set. I don't give a shit. Like he's going to win 90% of the time. I know that she's now going to win 90% of the time because she's stronger in the clinch and physically stronger. So I'll pay 2-1 as opposed to minus 110 that I didn't know this 2 minutes ago. But now I see it and it's like clear as day. She's way more physical. Minus 210 or minus 220 at that point. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like hammer that line. And then you see like in 4 minutes, it's minus 700. And you're like, yep. And it's easy to then get, a 2 units in a bet live. And we're like, there's no way in hell you would have bet 2 units on it like pre. And you're like, all right, I might have bet a unit. It's like, all right, cool. And so I just think a lot of people don't take that approach to betting live, like, and getting data and then actually paying worse line and saying, I'm sacrificing the line for the data and the data costs this money.
Yeah, that's something I've learned from you the last time we spoke that I really do think that people should take note of. And especially something I learned from you and Narco doing the live show. Sometimes when I tune in on Spaces is, I mean, it's something that I didn't really realize until you guys pointed it out. But if there's a fight where it's like, say Ketlin is stronger, right? She wins round 1 with some control time, bigger shots. She even wins round 2, for the large majority of the fight. But say Pannie comes on strong in round 3, that live line might switch where it's like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like they disregard the fact that she can't win the fight unless she 10-8s or 10-7s in round 3, which is not going to happen. So you can get a good live line in the very final leg of a fight in a 3-rounder. That doesn't even make sense, betting wise. So that's something I've really taken notice of. And it's an interesting thing that happens sometimes in these live lines. So I'm not always available to hit those live, but when I do, those strategies certainly come to mind. And I think people are really obsessed with getting that, which is not bad. They're obsessed with getting closing line value more than just, like you said, trading it off for data mid-fight. So that's a good tip there. But Yeah, you do think it's going to be Ketlin Vieira that comes out the victor of this fight if you had to judge it now?
If I had to judge it now, I just think she's the more physical one. But again, the same thing. Like if I see that she loses the first clinch and she's not stronger and she's struggling to get anything off, I think, like you said, I think the volume on the feet and I think the striking and the technicality of strikes on Pani is significantly better than Ketlin. And she throws, just like you said, she's kind of a moment winner. And one of the biggest bets I had last year was the horrible is like a mistake line was on Holly Holm most significant strikes, and they hung a same game parlay where you could get that at 8-1, like over 4.5 minutes, and like Sean Orr made like 10K on that. It was ridiculous. So yeah, it was a mistake line, but it's the same thing. It's like we're betting it so hard because Ketlin Vieira, there's no world of which she comes close to leading a striking battle versus Holm. So it's like, or versus really anybody. She just rarely does. And she throws big bombs and she tries to hit you and tries to clinch you. And that's where she gets her damage. So I don't know. I think like I would lean Ketlin by points, potentially Ketlin by sub if she gets her down. I think she can sub her. She had Holm in really bad spot and almost killed her. So yep. She doesn't do much damage wise, ground and pound wise, but she lays and prays and she tries to get in some better positions, but she does have pretty good jiu-jitsu to get some finishes. So that is potential there too.
Yeah, this is it's an odd one, especially looking back at their recent records here. I mean, both losing that the decision to Raquel Pennington. You could argue the Ketlin one, but both of them, they got their momentum thrown off by the clinching in the cage of Pennington. Neither woman really having the best wins as of late. So like I said, Pandy Kianzad losing to Pennington, making it a little bit more competitive than it should have been against Lena Landsberg. Ketlin Vieira kind of the same boat, right? Like facing an old Holly Holm, returning Misha Tate, losing to Pennington by split, again, arguable. So just not the best, but I think Ketlin will be stronger in the spot. I'm leaning more towards her as a pick now that the money line has changed. Before, I was just kind of blown away that it was plus 165 for Kianzad. So I guess I'll stick with that underdog just as a technical pick, but this is one of my lesser confident picks on the entire card so far. So just like 2 Cents says, greasy split coming. We got my guy Tyler, 138 MMA. You have not missed much. We've got a long card ahead of us. So we got Blom Dog saying, hey, when you bet live, isn't your stream a bit behind? How do you stream faster? I usually watch it on ESPN Plus just on my desktop or on my phone. It's usually pretty on point with the sports books. But yeah, if you're using a Roku, you might be a bit behind. You might be seeing the future looking at those live lines on the sports book, so it might be a bit confusing. And this is also another reason why sometimes people don't talk about the live betting is because some people don't have access to it. My man, Any Action Effie is jealous of us on these live bets. Yeah, it's a tough one, man. I'm jealous of being available all the time. Sometimes I'm missing these cards, especially if they're an early start time. But this weekend I'll be watching it live, I think, with my guy Johnny K Picks on his channel. So I'll be possibly hitting some of these with you guys. So we can move on to Brian Barbarena taking on Mahmoud Muradov. Middleweight debut for Brian Barbarena, who's had 13 fights, all at 170. Actually, not all at 170. There's a couple of 155ers back in the day as well. Mahmoud Muradov is more of a chiseled up, true to the weight class striker, combat sambo, kickboxing background. This guy's got flying techniques, long, straight punches from range. But he can mix it up close, too, and wing wild looping hooks that have knocked people out. Left and right pre-UFC, even in the UFC, he's knocked out Trevor Smith. I know Andrew Sanchez looked like he got electrocuted when he got hit by Muradov, if you watched that knockout. But both guys coming off of 2 lost streaks. So, man, what's up with Brian Barbarena, Tim? Why is this guy dropping down to going up to 185 for the first time? Not a good look, in my opinion. I think his durability might not hold up the way it has been at 170. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, this makes no sense. Yeah, this is one of those, this just doesn't make any sense, let's be honest about it. He's small at 170. It's just, right? This dude's not a big guy.
Smaller, just like out of shape, you know what I mean?
I should say,
he belongs down at 155.
He could be 155, or you look at a guys like this where you're like, oh, if this guy trained and did actually cut down, and he could probably cut to 155. He's small enough. He's a tall dude, right? But I don't know. I don't understand it. It makes no sense. So like you're saying, does this help his cardio because he doesn't have to cut as much weight? Does it help his chin? Because whatever. He's not going to be big at this weight class. I think that he's fighting guys like Brown. I thought Brown won the fight. Like I think like there's certain fights where I'm like, I'm flashing back to these little like, moments with Barbarena where I'm like, I thought, didn't he fight Weeks? I thought when he won a split against Weeks too. Am I wrong on that?
It was unanimous, but it was
unanimous.
It was surprising.
Yeah, I had. That's right. I had a split Weeks ticket, and it was an insane line. It was like 18-1 or 16-1 or something, and I was so livid because I'm like, oh, this potentially could be split, but I thought Weeks won and could be unanimous, and I think I had like a 4-1 on Weeks by points, and I'm like, all right, this is cashing, and I might cash the 18-1, and then like unanimous. I'm like, all right, I cashed the unanimous. I'm like, he loses. Like, oh, get the fuck out of here. Like, there's no way. And I think that Barbarena is like, he's not fighting guys now the same way. Like, I just think that he's deteriorating. His game has been deteriorating. He's fighting these guys where it just seems like he knows he's taking paychecks against guys he's going to get murdered, and he's like, yeah, let's go. I don't care. I'll fight anybody. I'm at that stage in my career. And I think this is just another one of those where he's like, yeah, I'll fight the guy up a weight class. It's a better striker than me, and that's stronger than me physically, and it could possibly even grapple me. So it's like, I don't see, minus like injuries or meme bonk here, his path to winning this fight. So yeah, I sneaky like Muradov sub a line here. If they hang something really like wide on that, I think I might take a stab at that just because he's grappled a little bit more. And I think that, I don't know, I just think it's possible that he could hit him, not club and sub him, potentially just go, man, this is so easy. If I just take this guy down, I could sub him. It's a cakewalk on the ground. So I don't know. Yeah, I think Muradov's a safe parlay piece. I think that this is like one of the safer plays on the card.
Yeah, I agree with you here, man. I was never really that high on Muradov that much, but I'm thinking back to, his fight against my guy Gerald Mearshart, who pretty much schooled him after. And that's how Brian Barbarena would have to win this fight, would be like, absorbing a bunch of damage early, catching Muradov over swinging, countering on him, getting him tired. And then, Brian Barbarena is not as big as Mearshart. He's not as polished of a striker. He's not as polished of a grappler at all, So, I'm struggling to find ways, unless it's Muradov that kind of defeats himself in this spot. And especially with this new weight class going up. Brian Barbarena is a guy who's talked about like a punch list. My guy Dale said he's talked about retirement before. He had a bunch of operations like mid-career. So this guy is certainly more grizzled at 34 than that age would represent at the weight class. So having sketchy performances against old timers like Robbie Lawler and Matt Brown, guys at the level of Jason Witt and Darian Weeks, even going back a couple years now. So I like you pointing out the Muradov sub potential. Muradov's a guy who does he'll jump club and sub, he'll jump guillotine here and there on the mat, but I think it might be a knockout, just a path of least resistance. But a guy that's been as tough as Barbarena, I could see the reason why that would be. Maybe he doesn't actually go out, and Muradov does have to jump onto a neck to get that finish. Something like that could happen. But inside the distance, Muradov just as a parlay piece, I didn't get on that when it was like minus 250. It's now minus 300, minus 350 is high on some books. So if you guys got on that line before it moved like $1 in the opposite, the other direction, like Any Action Sportscast, I think he's got a max bet on him. So good on you. Hope it was close to that minus 250 line. So who else in here? Sicky's got Aspinall and Muradov in a parlay at minus 150. Okay, I like that. That's not bad. I might have to join you in something like that. I think he is a safe pick the more I look at this. So what did 2 cents say? Imagine the state of Barbarena on Friday. God damn, the love handles are going to be fluffy by Friday, boys. It's going to be something. This is the first of a few weight class changes on this card that I just don't see. I don't see the point of, and I don't see it going well for them. So
yeah, Sicky does made a great point on the Muradov versus Caio Baralho fight. That was huge.
Yeah.
Like that was the fight I was referring to. Like that's. He reversed him multiple times. He got him down. Like I don't know. I just feel like if he takes that route against Caio, come on, like this is That's if they hang like 5 or 6 to 1 or something stupid above that on this subline, I'll hammer it. I'll just say, well, I don't care. I'll hammer it with the rounds, and I'll just be like, who cares? I'll hit one of them, or if he finishes them, I'll hit one of them.
Even on BetOnline right now, which I have open, it's plus 550 Muradov sub. So you're going to get something better than that on some other books.
Dude, FanDuel might hang like a 750, and I'm going to have like $200 on it.
I might have to join you on that. I'm taking note of that. That's a good one. I wrote down to check the inside the distance and the sub lines, but yeah, this will be a spot that I think should be pretty safe. One of these, we've gone through a lot of fights that I could argue back and forth. This one, I'm pretty sold on Muradov here. His speed is pretty intense. But we go back to a sketchy fight at heavyweight. Mick Parkin making his debut against Jamal Pogues. Dude, this one is this could be sloppy. I can't tell if this is going to be over quick, if it's going to be long and drug out as a decision result. We got the undefeated debut of Mick Parkin, who is, 6-0 as a professional, a little bit of an amateur career there as well, where he went undefeated. But man, if you look at the level of competition, this guy is not beating anybody remarkably great. Even when he made his walk to the Contender Series, his opponent overswung, landed on Mick Parkin's chin a bit, and then gassed out within like 90 seconds. And Mick Parkin picked up a submission win, the first one on his record, but he's never been to a decision. Jamal Pogues is a guy who's at least had better experience, not blowing anybody's socks off with his performances on the Dana White Contender Series, but he did come through against Josh Parisian I think in February of this year in a decision that was, again, pretty lackluster. He's got a good jab. He's got some decent rangy striking. He's a big guy, but he's competed at light heavyweight. Just looks a little bit tubby at this point at heavyweight. So he's hanging out here. I can't tell if Mick Parkin's going to just walk through Jamal Pogues early in this fight, or if Jamal Pogues could, show that he has the better cardio to at least mix in takedowns, mix in high output striking, and just keep Mick Parkin at bay and kind of wear him out. So that's the side I'm leaning on because I've seen it happen before. I've seen Jamal Pogues at least go through a 15-minute fight on several occasions. Mick Parkin, I don't know. I know he trains with Aspinall. I know he trains with some high-level guys, but just from what I've seen on tape, I can't prove that this guy is very good. I mean, his boxing looks okay. He's big for the weight class as he should be at heavyweight, but goddamn, there's something about Jamal Pogues making his entrance to the UFC kind of on like a pity signing, right? Like, these guys in the Contender Series where they just start weeping uncontrollably, and then Dana's like, God damn it, kid. All right, don't do this to me. I'll sign you. That was a boring-ass fight you just showed me, but you just started crying about something in your life. I mean, it was just a real downer seeing Jamal Pogues in tears both of the times he won on the series. And Dana White, I think he's got a heart at his old age, Tim, unless you're Ariel Helwani or his wife. I think he's got kind of a soft spot for these guys. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So, how do you see this fight? This is a spot where am I overlooking something that everybody else sees in Mick Parkin?
I don't know what you could possibly see in Mick Parkin on the tape. Like, I just don't. That's for Mick Parkin. There you go. Yeah, I think that might be, if he wins this fight, they might have to do that at McDonald's. Come get the number 6 meal is now the McParkin supersized. I don't know honestly what you could see in the Parkin tape that says like, all right, yeah, this guy's really legit and he's got cardio. He can do this for whatever. Like, just he's always got great takedown. There's like 58 boxes to be checked on this guy that I have no idea about. So it's like, I just don't think that it's something that I want to be putting a lot of money on. Definitely on his side. I'm definitely not betting on his side. So for me, it's either Pogues or pass, and trying to figure out how I would want to bet this.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but how ugly is that statement in this fight where it's Pogues or pass?
No, right? Exactly. That's horrible. You don't want to be involved in this at this stage in the game, right? Just pass. And when you're at Pogues and pass, it's usually pass. So I'm with you though. I think that Pogues is like, he's a guy for heavyweight that he is smaller, but if you tell me that that you have a heavyweight that can wrestle for 15 minutes and take a guy down twice per round, that's a super valuable, as well as a guy that his only strike is like a rangy jab that's not bad. It's like, and it's pretty much the only thing that he's going to throw. So he's going to have a little bit of volume. He's going to have cardio that's not great, but good enough that he can it's like serviceable functional cardio. Like he's like one of those guys who's like everybody says like, oh, he's gassing. It's like he's a very functional gasser because he's taking down the guy twice in the third round when he's totally gassing. So like, is he laying and praying and you didn't cash a third round 3 ticket? For sure, yes. Piss you off? Yes, I had the same ticket, but he's going to win the fight for you. So should have bet the money line and da-da-da-da. So like, I think that Pogues presents certain like issues for certain types of fighters. And I think Parkin probably could be that type of fighter if he doesn't get off early and or just potentially fall on him luckily in the round 2 or round 3 or maybe reverse him and then just use his size to stay on top. I kind of lean more looking to live bet Pogues after midway through round 1 when, if Parkin has any success, that you just bet you bet Jamal live and you just wait for him to struggle a little bit. And then you see how he does in the clinch and you see who is stronger. And if he has any success in the first takedown or getting this guy down, and then he's starting to, hold him down or whatever, it's the same deal. It's like 2-1 is fine. But I think that like late round props, like round 3 or decision kind of lean that for Pogues.
Yeah, and both guys are supposed to have some sort of like grappling credentials. I think Mick Parkin, I don't know what rank of BJJ he is, but he's supposed to kind of like Sicky was saying, like that doesn't always translate. Who you train with, the greatness doesn't always rub off on you. He's citing Maurice Green and Jorgen De Castro training with John Jones. Same with Walt Harris, right? Well, Walt Harris, that did rub off on him. He failed his drug test training with John Jones, so that worked out for him. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't always translate there. But I think, Jamal Pogues is like a newer black belt this year too. So
that like you hit the nail on the head though. That's like this dude was a plus 200 dog in the Dana White Contender Series. Like add on top of the fact that how many of these guys do you see like this guy's he's in the UFC because he's a friend of this guy. Like he's this guy's dude. Blood Diamond, right? Like you just get, all right, this is we're setting this guy up. He's got his chance. Does he step up or not? He's got 2 fights now. He sucks. All right, let's get him for a third and then we'll get him out. So I don't know. I kind of lean that way as well. This could be one of those fights hindsight where we're just saying, yeah, the plus 200 dog who got the contract because the guy gassed after like 2 minutes. Wow, it's a shame. It's a shock that this guy was a fraud. Like it could be like easy. So I don't know. I lean Pogues, but no big bet here.
Yeah, the over-under on this fight set at over-under 1.5. Of course, probably the over translates towards a Jamal Pogues victory. Probably things will swing in his favor.
What's the line on that, by the way?
Over is taking a lot of heat. It's like minus 200, minus 210 for the over 1.5.
It should be. That's what it should be.
Yeah, so that's been skewed here. Mick Parkin, a guy who's not been 2 decisions, so that makes a lot of sense here. So, yeah, we're on the same side of this one. Going with Pogues just because that's what we've seen. We've seen this guy actually do things functionally. Mick Parkin, God only knows what his problems are or his successes could be. So, we're going to move right along here to a fight that's a pretty intriguing one to break down. We got Mark Diakiese taking on Joel Alvarez at 155. Mark Diakiese, he was a very explosive striker. He still has that in his back pocket, but when facing other strikers recently, he's been taking them to the mat repeatedly with rinse and repeat takedowns. He did that against Vyacheslav Borshev. He did that against the who else did he do that against? Why am I blanking on the guy's name now, Tim? Who's his other opponent besides that? Oh, good old Damir Hadzovic. How could I forget? And then against Michael Johnson recently, did not work out. Michael Johnson very good at sprawling and brawling. And, man, he definitely took that one. I think Mark Diakiese kind of let that slip through his fingers, though, just kind of from showboating and things. But either way, he takes on Joel Alvarez, who's been out of the cage for 1.5 years after suffering that brutal ground and pound victory at the hands of Arman Tsarukyan. No shame in that loss. But Joel Alvarez, very good grappler, very good finisher with 100% finish rate so far, mostly by submission. Mark Diakiese's been known to shoot takedowns, kind of panic wrestle, and get his neck caught up in guillotines. I could see that happening here. But, Tim, on paper, this looks very funny because you got Mark Diakiese with this wrestling game plan, pretty high success rate on those. You see Joel Alvarez never defending one takedown. He's pretty content to get the fight to go to the mat, even on his opponent's terms. Could it be that simple? Could we see Mark Diakiese pull this one out as a slight underdog here just because he can hold down Joel Alvarez, or do you see Alvarez getting a submission?
I think both are live. I think that's both kind of their paths. Diakiese, I feel like Diakiese is being underrated in the striking just because of how he's fought in his last few fights. I mean, this dude fought, I'm not saying he won, but he fought Rafael Fiziev to a decision, as well as like didn't get absolutely murdered volume wise. I think he lost maybe by 20 or 25 strikes, something like that. But I think he got off over 75, something like that on him. So I think that that's huge. I mean, I think if you can get close to 80 strikes on Fiziev in 15 minutes and not die, you're doing well in a striking battle. So I think he's kind of being underrated striking if this is a striking fight. And I think that, I mean, this is a fight where there's too many like iterations that go in my mind where I'm like, oh, that could go this way, could go this way. And, you know, that's where you don't bet it. Like you just don't, like, and especially with me where I'm trying to hit props, I'm just saying like, don't touch this fight unless you see something that's wide and you're saying like, okay, like last week with Jack Della, I'm like, yeah, I think he finishes him late, but I'm like 8-1 is stupid. Like decision is stupid. Like, and so we gave that off on the Lambo plays just because of the same reason. Sometimes you see the lines and you're like, it shouldn't be this. So I kind of feel like there's like sneaky Alvarez decision prop, like a line here for Alvarez by decision. If like Diakiese doesn't try to take him down, I just could see this being like a decision, like easily. Like I don't think that Alvarez is taking anybody down. I don't know how many takedown even attempts he has in the UFC. Like he's got 0% takedown defense, so clearly he wants to get to the ground, but he doesn't attempt takedowns on people. So he usually like beats them up and then they try to take him down and then he goes for his subs. So I feel like if Diakiese wants to keep the fight on the feet, it's up to him. And if he wants to take him down, it's up to him. So if he's smart, if Diakiese's smart, he won't try to take him down because I think that he can get reversed. I think that he could get subbed. I just think you're just going directly into the lion's den with Joel. Now, that being said, I feel like Joel's defense striking and like how he, like his volume and just like his combinations that he uses, I don't know. I just don't think that they're like otherworldly, like Rafael Fiziev, like a perfect example. Like he's just being, again, inflated on the Thiago Moises fight where it's just like, okay, this is this best performance striking wise. Everybody's going to bet him now against Arman. He gets murdered. It's like, no, dude, this is he had a great performance there. And then you bought high in the next fight. So
didn't we get Arman Tsarukyan at like 2-1 or something like that in that fight? It was insane. I remember that. That was he was a solid. I think he was a solid favorite in that fight, right? Mm-hmm. For Arman, you're saying? Yeah, Arman, but he was like, you could have got him. I think it was like -200 to -200.
Yeah, it was. It
looks like in hindsight, it's like. Yeah,
he was a -1,000 exactly. Like you watch him, and as soon as he took him down, as soon as he slipped past the first sub attempt, you're like, this is going to be murder. So yeah, 100%. So I think that you're looking at like this situation in this fight. I just feel like it could be striking wise. I think it could be way closer. So this is a fight where I might look at the decision and the split decision props. If they're asinine, I might take some shots. And I think like even the sub for Alvarez is just too obvious. And I think it's definitely there. So I'm not saying like they're going to line it so that you almost can't bet it. So the decision for him kind of is sneaky to me. I'm not saying that it's guaranteed to happen. I don't think he's ever won one. So he's got a 100% finish rate. So I just think that might be good, but I don't think that I think that there's plenty of people that are actually attacking that line because it's gone down significantly already in a couple days. So.
Yeah, it's one of those spots where if you told me that this goes to decision, I'd probably think, yeah, Diakiese's got a good shot at pulling that one off. But if you told me this fight ends under, I'd probably think that, Alvarez did something, to earn himself the win. Largely by submission is his biggest path. And Mark Diakiese doing something dumb, going for takedowns here, wouldn't surprise me. I just don't trust the guy. He's a guy who had a very good career before the UFC where he looked very impressive and promising. And now at this level, I mean, it's not it hasn't really panned out. Like he's not as violent of a finisher the same way. Obviously, like you mentioned, like the Fiziev fight and fights like that where he's actually been competitive and back and forth against good strikers shows what level he's at. But Yeah, I mean, this guy is very inconsistent with his efforts, and I just don't trust him in this spot. So I'm not on the Mark Diakiese side, but Alvarez all the way at like what, minus 190 at this point, minus 200 on a lot of books I'm looking at. I don't really want to trust him coming off of a 1.5 year long layoff and not really being urgent to get the fight into his realm here. So it's a back and forth thing. I'm going to lean on Alvarez to get the finish inside the distance here. I think it is going to be him setting it up on the feet, making Mark Diakiese panic wrestle and grabbing up a sub, but I'm not really finding too many exciting ways to play this one. I did see Siki getting at like minus 150. I've seen some of those numbers out on Twitter. I like that for Alvarez. If it dipped down to minus 150, minus 170 might be the max I would bet it, but not too exciting here. There's a lot of ways this could play out, just like Tim pointed out. So excited for the fight, though. Just betting-wise, it seems a bit tricky. But the next fight I do actually like a lot more than some people do. At 170, we got Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts taking on Johnny Parsons. Parsons making his debut after a couple years away from the game. He did score that decision victory, a very close one against Solomon Renfro, where he came on strong in round 2 and round 3 after getting hurt very badly by Renfro in round 1. But we got two kind of different strikers here. Johnny Parsons, very typical and traditional Muay Thai striker. The guy is pretty small for the weight class at 5'9", but man, he closes distance super fast. He performs a lot better than you would think at 170 for his size and stature and just the way he looks. I think his Muay Thai is actually pretty slick. His durability is going to aid him pretty well in this fight. And against Danny Roberts, that's the exact kind of recipe for disaster, right? Roberts does not have that good durability. He's been knocked out 4 times. I think finished in like 6 out of his 7 losses in total. And, even the fights where he's not getting finished, you're seeing fights like him against Trinaldo where he gets badly wobbled by, several strikes in that fight. So I am on the Johnny Parsons side. I have 1 unit on him at plus 100 here. And I do have the under as well, just in case he gets finished himself, which has certainly happened before. And we're hearing that he's been delayed for his debut based on concussion symptoms. So not really good to hear. I forgot about that. He was going to make his debut a while back, but he was unable to do so with the medical clearance. So just in case Roberts uses his better striking, better experience, and gets a knockout himself, I got that under at minus 130 for a unit as well. So I think Johnny Parsons comes in here, gets in a firefight, and actually finds the chin and does it within 1 or 2 rounds, man. How are you reading this fight? Do you see the potential in Johnny Parsons here?
I don't want to have your money, my money, my parents' money. You donate money to me to bet on this fight. I don't want to have any money on this fight.
You don't like violence here between these two guys?
I think that's but I mean, I think that's what is the under 2.5 at?
I got it at minus 130. I think it's still around that right now.
Yeah, that's not bad. I don't think that's bad. I think it's very likely that somebody does die here. So, and then you don't have to pick a side, but yeah,
under 2.5 minus 145 on Bet Online. I think it's
not
still
terrible.
exists.
Yeah, it's not terrible. I think it's definitely over 60%. So yeah, it's not terrible at all. All right, so I guess I'm trying to think of the opposite side of where the fight doesn't go, right? The fight doesn't go if Danny Roberts can stay safe for 15 minutes, legit, and is so much better of a striker than Johnny Parsons that he just doesn't get connected on really at all. He just seems to be reacting really badly to every type of punch and any kind of damage whatsoever. So I feel like it's just tough to have any money on either one of these guys. I don't like Parsons in general, and I just don't like fading shit with other shit if I don't think that there's a significant edge on the line. And if there's a significant edge on the line, then I'll take a shot. But this is just these two fighters I just don't want to have a lot of money or bet on, and I don't know, even gun to head, I think I would be like, oh my God, I think I'd have to go Parsons early. But man, I don't want a lot of money on this fight.
I do it because I like pain. I'm kind of a masochist, and this fight is just hilarious. So I did take that plus money, plus 100 on Johnny Parsons, just a unit on it. But the more I look at the tape of it, the more he closes distance, kind of sneakily fast. I think he does find the chin of Roberts, and Roberts is a guy who's technical from the outside. But once you get inside and he gets in a close range brawl, his technique kind of falls apart. I think Parsons is going to be a lot better at close range. So if he can just close that distance, man, and just start fast in this fight, maybe he's got like the jitters of being away from the cage for a couple of years. And you see some of those guys either be very tentative, but in the case of Parsons, I think he's going to rush the issue and try to start fast, which could go very poorly for him. So I took that under as a bit of an insurance there as well. But yeah, I mean, it should be a fun fight either way. And I don't blame anybody for being off of this fight. But yeah, it is going to be funny seeing Parsons. I want to see him on the scale and see what he looks like, because the face-offs could be funny here with Hot Chocolate being such a long, rangy, true to the weight class physique, and Parsons kind of just, hopefully he's still rocking the mullet, looking kind of like an awkward, out of shape, like potentially featherweight fighter fighting at 170. So yeah. Exactly, man. Balls of steel, dude. There's a couple of fights, man, where you guys are taking your Duncans, you guys are taking your Bruno Brazil, whatever it may be. This is where I put my balls on the table and made a stupid.
Some cappers, man, they'll put like 3 and 4, 5 fights a card like this, where they're like, dude, yeah, put it on the table, let's do it.
Right.
You gotta have some balls.
Yeah, it was probably like early in the morning one night, sleeplessly, and I think it was like between Saturday and Sunday, where I'm like watching the tape on Danny Roberts. I'm like, dude, he could pull this off. It's plus 100. Let's just put a unit on it. So, yeah, this is a fun one, man. So I'm excited for that one. That does close out the prelims, though. No, we've got one more. We've got Davy Grant and Daniel Marcos. This is on the prelims. Man, This is closing out the prelims. This is a great fight, man. I got to bet on this one as well, dude. But we got the 14-0 Daniel Marcos coming in here for his second UFC fight. He was on the Contender Series, performed very well in that result where he won a decision. Davy Grant has been in the league for like 10 years now, although he did have some layoffs. And this guy is tough as nails, really well-rounded game, a lot of experience, obviously a decade in the organization. And he gives, even in the past few years, dude, like towards the end of his bantamweight prime, this guy is giving really tough tests to up-and-coming fighters like Adrian Yanez, Marlon Chito Vera twice. He beat him the first time, fought the reloaded, revamped version of Marlon Vera the second time, and, lost that fight. But it was, like most Marlon Chito Vera fights, he's got to work his way back into it. But still, Grant would not die in that fight. Marcos is a very slick striker, and he's got knockout power, really flashy kicks, good boxing and good pressure. But, with this undefeated record, he's kind of used to guys wilting in front of him, and he's taken on a very durable Davy Grant who might not do that so easily. So this could be a gut check. This could be a mental toughness check for Daniel Marcos here. Or Marcos could be the real deal. He could come in here and make Davy Grant look like he belongs in the old folks' home. So I'm on the Davy Grant side at plus 118. I did take him for a couple of units here just because I love his ability to come back from bad situations, as we saw with a bit of controversy in his last fight, a win over Rafael Assunção by submission in round 3. Crazy back and forth fight there. Cashed in on Davy Grant. Thank God for what's his face. Good. Thank God for no nonsense in that fight. Really saved the day. Took a point from my boy, but then he gave it right back to me. It was nice. So thank God for that one. Doing God's work, Keith Peterson. So how do you see this one playing out, man? I'm liking Davy Grant to get this done some way, somehow. But Daniel Marcos, are you impressed by this kid?
First of all, I got to say, you just reminded me of Payne 4-1 Assunção by points and 12-1 by split decision, which that fight was guaranteed going to split decision or draw.
Oh, no.
And so, yeah, that was piss. That was absolutely – that took the piss out of me right there. No, I'm with you. I think that – Grant – moneyline-wise, I think Grant has to be the side. I don't know. I think, like you're saying, I think Marcos is got some slick striking. I just think there's more question marks on his side as to, if the fight hits the ground, cardio, like you're saying, like ability to fight through adversity. We just don't know. The guy's never lost. Hasn't been really haven't seen him in major moments of adversity in any, or being really, really tested in a lot of his fights either. So I would lean pre-fight. I would be on the Davy Grant side, but the reason why I wouldn't have a bet on it, and the reason why I don't have a bet on it right now, is he just seems to be deteriorating more and more and more each fight. Like he just doesn't seem to be taking damage the same way. He's having more and more ass pulls. Like I just feel like those only last so long, and also like I that Homer Simpson defense where I can just take punches. It lasts so long, and then it just ends so quickly. And when it ends, it's just over, and then the guys start getting knocked out over and over and over. So you just never know when that's going to hit. So I guess I would be leaning Davey Grant, but I don't really. I maybe like this would really depend on how Marcos's durability is. But let's say that Marcos's durability is pretty good. I don't hate like a fight, end split in this decision. You got round 3 to round 2 KO. Yeah, I mean, like I just don't know like the cardio, and like I'm saying, I don't know that you get into a firefight with this guy. It's definitely possible. Like I just feel like that it's more based on what we've seen from Davey Grant, and then that Marcos is the kind of guy who's going to bring it. So it's like this could be a firefight, and it could be very, very close between two guys. And like you're saying, to have money on the dog and have plus money is a better way to go. And add that he has been so durable and so tough to take out. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's got to be that side for me. But I don't hate people taking a shot on the Marcos KO if it's going to be a good line for this fight, because obviously Grant's never been KO'd, so you're probably going to get a good stab at that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Davey Grant can do another ass pull here, one more in the books for good measure, one more cash at this line. But he does have a well-rounded game here, So a guy who used to grapple a lot, used to attempt a lot of takedowns. Now he's just going to war toe-to-toe with those weird punches that just swing from the hip, swing from weird angles, and usually find their way around the guard of his opponents, which I like for Davey Grant. Like you said, a bit of that Homer Simpson defense, which is going to be a super sweaty ordeal early in this fight. But, man, if he can – this is one of my favorite spots betting-wise, is when I get like a gritty veteran who seems to be on the decline, but he gets priced as an underdog against somebody who's never lost, because you got these young guys. And I guess Marcos isn't that young. You think he's 30 years old, but still you have that aura of invincibility as an undefeated fighter. And when you face that one guy that's just like, man, every other opponent I've faced went down from these strikes, but not Davey Grant. This guy's still bleeding on me, sweating on me, and walking me down, clinching up with me, throwing wild hooks. Like, hopefully that happens and we see Grant come through. And I don't know. I could see him getting the decision here. But I could see either guy falling, and if this goes sideways, towards the round 2, round 3, even fight ending in round 2, round 3. I wonder what that line would be, just to cover both sides of that bet. But I do see where Dixon's coming from here, and I see where you're coming from with how many more of these ass pulls is Davey Grant going to have? A guy who's had a lot of injuries, even almost like Barbarena, right? Where like in his early 30s, Davey Grant had like some knee repair stuff going on. I know he had some issues early on that caused him to step away from the sport. We're talking like 2015. So he's been through it, but he's looking pretty decent recently. And like I said, he's still hanging in there with guys, boxing back and forth with Adrian Yanez. No easy task, and coming up close in that decision loss. Stuff like that I like to see. So hopefully they fly out Keith Peterson for this fight and cash another ticket. Put that man on a flight right now. God damn. So his wife and family surely must be telling him to stop fighting, I guess. I mean, as long as those checks keep on coming through, as long as the check clears, I bet they're okay with dad going out there and getting his brain splattered. So, man, hopefully this is a good fight. And I think one of these prices will look very off. We're going to see Marcos possibly look like he should have been a much bigger favorite. I can certainly see that happening. But that does close out the prelims. We move on to the main card. Everybody hit the like, hit the subscribe. Make sure you check out the description. Of course, my guy, Tim Troiano. If you don't live under a rock, you know who this man is. You follow him on Twitter already for all of his insight and gold. He's on the Lambo Plays Podcast on Friday nights with Narco Cop. He does his live spaces on Saturday, usually before the fights start. What are you doing something this Saturday, Tim, even though it's an early one?
Narco usually runs the live spaces, and I just jump in with him. So yeah, for sure he'll be.
You do your like a pre-fight with Sean Orr, right?
Usually Sean and I do it at 1 p.m. So I'll have to talk to him if we're gonna do like a really early one, because he's in Arizona, so that would be like breakfast time for him. So
gotcha, right? Yeah, it's a nice early start time. Get some mimosas going for this one. Question for us here: would you be surprised if Grant retired after KO loss? Probably not. I don't know. I don't think I would be. I think he's got a lot more fights in him, but the panic retirement after a knockout loss happens sometimes. People get emotional in front of their hometown crowd here. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. He's had a long career and probably Yeah, I don't think he retires, but I could see him taking off the gloves, and having a speech ready, but then coming back later. You know how it goes, Tim. Like, do you think for 1 second Robbie Lawler's actually not going to fight anymore? I bet he's going to have one more circus fight left in him.
It would only be right.
I don't care what UFC roster watches.
It would only be the dumbest thing in the history because he literally has the perfect ending and goes out that way.
But that never happens, dude.
That's why it's always ruined. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's always ruined.
Yeah, it's always ruined, dude. Whether it's a sanctioned bout somewhere in Golden Boy Promotions or whether it's a bouncer outside of a dive bar in his hometown, he's gonna have one more fight left in him before it's all said and done.
He'll have to chase the next 3 fights after that loss too to get it. I gotta finish on a win. I gotta finish on a win.
That happens, man. It's so sad to see.
Like that 4th fight, I gotta finish on a win.
and then the record goes from 20-7 to 20-37.
Exactly.
It's just the way it goes. It's the game that we play. It's a brutal bitch of MMA. But we move on to the main card. We got Lerone Murphy taking on Josh Culibao at featherweight. And this is one that I need your opinion on badly, Tim, because I want to bet Lerone Murphy, but I got through with another robbery last time at UFC 286. I bet on Lerone Murphy pretty heavy. Thought he was going to have a layup in the debuting short notice opponent, Gabriel Santos. And Santos damn near won that fight, probably should have gotten his hand raised. I mean, they kind of just didn't even look at the grappling stats of that fight and just saw that Murphy outstruck him 2-1. They gave it to Murphy, and I got through. So now I'm a little bit hesitant to just mentally to bet Lerone Murphy again. It's the same line that I got last time, -130 for Lerone Murphy. Do I have to really sweat through this one? But if I look objectively at Josh Culibao, he's a great fighter. He's durable, a little bit scrappy, but he's much more lower volume on the numbers, striking-wise. And he's a guy who's finally not going to challenge Lerone Murphy with takedown offense, right? All of these guys, whether you're a striker and a BJJ grappler in Ricardo Ramos, whether you're a guy like Makwan Amirkhani, a guy like Gabriel Santos, these are all grapplers that are trying to upset the rhythm of Lerone Murphy's explosive strikes with takedown offense and make him have to worry about that. So Culibao, not a guy who's really threatening that much with the grappling. He does have decent submission skills on the mat. We've seen him kind of flash that from time to time, but just never successful in getting the takedown. So should I be worried about laying down a bet on Lerone Murphy, or should I stay off of this one?
I made the same bet as you last fight on Murphy by decision, and I agree. I think we got lucky on that one. I also had Culibao by submission against Melsick, which was glorious, a huge number. And I don't know. I feel like the same thing. Culibao, I've actually had Culibao in a bunch of fights. I look back at my betting with him. He's been really, really good for me. And this is the first fight where I actually kind of don't like it. The reason why is like you're saying, I don't think that he's going to be athletic enough or physically strong enough to get the takedowns as easily as Makwan. Maybe the wrestling and these guys is levels difference, as well as I think that the volume and the movement and quickness and speed of Murphy is just better. So I kind of feel the same thing here. I feel like you're not going to knock out. I don't think Murphy's going to knock out Culibao. I feel like it's going to be one guy is striking probably 7 to every 4 strikes that the other guy hits him. And one guy's going to probably have a little bit more strikes that are a little bit bigger for Culibao when he does connect. So this is just a classic end split and decision for Lerone Murphy. And he's probably going to, it might even be unanimous on a really close fight just because he's in the UK. So yeah, I feel like probably Murphy's the side, and you'll have some chances to maybe bet it live about back and forth potentially.
Happy birthday to Lerone Murphy come fight day. He'll be 32 years old. And yeah, I do love the athleticism. He darts in and out of range very, very quickly. And his knockouts come pretty much out of nowhere, right? I had Murphy, I had bet him against Makwan Amirkhani, not looking great in round 1. Amirkhani always comes on strong. Lerone Murphy, not the best takedown defense. Then early round 2 starts, and that nice flying knee just flattened him, cashed the bet pretty easily about a couple of years ago now. So stuff like that I don't see happening in this fight. I think Culibao is super tough. But dude, yeah, it's still in the back of my mind, Tim. Just that we snuck by with profit on Lerone Murphy in a big way when we probably shouldn't have. I feel like I'm at risk of giving that all back in this one. This could play out kind of close, but man, objectively, if I take all of that out of it, I look at just this matchup. I see Lerone Murphy winning this one, and I'm glad the line has actually come down on him. I feel comfortable playing him. I think BetOnline still has him at minus 130. I'm looking at here. Yep, minus 130. Lerone Murphy, Josh Culibao plus 110. We kind of went through it, but like, how is Culibao going to win this one? Like, could he just all of a sudden flip the script and start getting takedowns for the first time ever? Could he come strong and like outstrike Lerone Murphy in between the explosive attempts? Like, what could really go wrong with Murphy here?
He could get rocked in any round and lose a round, or get dropped and lose a round. Like, Culibao's got hands. Like, he throws pretty powerful hands. Like, just he's not like you said, he's not a guy that proactively grapples and does, you see, okay, this wrestling is great, and this guy, you know what you're going to get. It's usually that you're yelling at the screen, why doesn't this guy got great jits? Why doesn't he wrestle? Right. Mm-hmm. So I think that you're getting into these fights. Like, he's got, how many fights does he have? Let's see. He's got 12, 13 fights. So it's like, think about how much variance you have in a guy that has 13 fights, right? It's like, there's so many different ways that all of this can go. So we're talking about a guy that has 13 fights and he doesn't ever wrestle. So if he comes out and he has a singlet on and then wrestles hard as hell because he feels like, I'm getting pieced up on the feet, I'm losing this is my path, then it's a question again of how is, we didn't think this fight was going to be in the clinch. We didn't think that Lerone was going to have to make 15 or 10 takedown defense attempts. And like, that's where the fight could be completely different from all of our views now. And there's nothing predictive that says it's going to be that way. But at the same time, if it goes that way, it's like, I don't think that Culibao is the wrestler that McCann is, but I do think that he's got 10 times the cardio that he has. So like, and I do feel like McCann got memed in this early part of the second round. So we didn't even get a chance to see if he could take him down and hold him down in the second round either. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. These are factors that, like, I don't know. That's his path. I just think it's stuff that we haven't seen. Either he bonks him or like really connects on a couple bigger shots where the clear damage is being done more by Culibao, which is what he's done in the fights where he's won. Like, he does. That's what he does. Like, he takes damage very, very well. He fights, he moves forward against guys. His optics are usually good. So he wins a lot of decisions that way. So I feel like that's a good, that's how he wins. I don't know that it's going to happen this week against Murphy, but I think it's definitely possible. I won a lot of money on Culibao. Like, it's weird for, like, I get biased with some of these fighters, but I don't want it because I can't then, it's harder to judge them, the way that you should when you're trying to make an honest bet on something and actually make money the next time. So, but yeah, I feel like Murphy should be the side. I feel he's more athletic, but I'm not putting a big bet on this for sure.
Where would you cap this line? Where would you line Murphy? If you think he should win, you think he should be the favorite? How big of a favorite? Is the line correct at minus 130 or no?
Yeah, I think minus 130, minus 140, something like that is fine. I think he should have a slight edge for his athletic abilities and speed and just the volume and being at home. I think it's a 50. I think it's a 50-50. It's like, it's a 50-50 fight and pretty close to maybe a 55-45 fight. And then you add another couple points just because you're saying he's at home, but.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. You're making me, I'm not sure if I made progress on that. I talked it through with you. I'll probably stay off of the bet, but I like Lerone Murphy here, and we're kind of on the same side of that one just slightly, but we both have reservations from past bets won and lost on these two guys, but it should be a fun fight. Hopefully Murphy comes through and doesn't need the help of the hometown judges, but should be a fun fight. But we can move on to another fight that, man, the money line just got away from me. I feel like I missed out on a bet on this one, this fight between Herbert and Ziam. But before that, man, I got to shout out my boys, Chronic Combat Conversations, saying, look at these handsome gents. Oh, I appreciate you, dude. Don't make me blush. But I know you guys had Johnny K. Picks on earlier tonight. I got to rewatch your guys' stream. I wasn't home for that. I'm sure you guys had a great time. My boy Johnny always spitting the knowledge, dude. That guy went like, well, how many fights do we have last week? 13. I think he picked 12 correct out of 13, so just one off. Dude's an absolute killer, so I'm sure you guys had fun talking to him. But we can move on to Jai Herbert, Faraz Ziam, two very long, rangy strikers at the lightweight division. And this opened up for like a couple of weeks where we had Faraz Ziam at like plus 145, stayed at plus money for a while until, late last week during the fights, I think is when it kind of started flipping to Ziam being the favorite. Now he's minus 156, Jai Herbert plus 136. And, man, I would have bet Ziam as a plus money underdog in this one. I like his improvements he's made. I bet him as a slight dog against Michael Figlak last time. I thought that was a good spot for him to just snipe off a debuting wrestle boxing type of opponent. But he performed a lot better than I thought he would, man. He started flipping the script with taking Michael Figlak down himself, pretty aggressively. Outpointed him, outgrappled him. Pretty impressive stuff. The guy seems to be turning around at 26 years old when he wasn't really that, outstanding before that point. Jai Herbert is a guy who, man, you look back at Jai Herbert's record, dude, and he's actually like, outside of his cool nickname, he's really not like that impressive with all of his performances, right? Like he got knocked out by Trinaldo pretty badly in round 3. He got club and sub by Moicano in round 2. He beat Kama Worthy, in round 1, as you should do. Had a nice little head kick on Ilya Tupuria before getting folded like a lawn chair in round 2 of that fight. Then he beats Kyle Nelson and draws against Ludovic Klein, a fight that he easily could have won. So, I mean, you look back at like the body of work from Jai Herbert, and we do our favorite thing that we like to do is just pick apart and be like, this fight doesn't count, this fight doesn't count, this win sucks, and do that type of thing with Jai Herbert. But my favorite thing to do. But the guy's name is the Black Country Banger, which I think that will be an awesome, I think the Black Beast Derek Lewis should have that name, to be honest, He should come out like an assless chaps in a cowboy hat, and they should change his character. They should change his character to the Black Country Banger and have that be his persona. But either way, dude, I think Ziam has all of the tools to win this fight, but he's more like a flat-footed counter striker. Jai Herbert more light and bouncy on his feet, a little bit faster, I think. But both guys what if they just kind of stare at each other and wait for the other to make the first move? This could be very boring. And I do like the overs more than anything in this spot. So how do you see this playing out? Are you impressed with all of the improvements from Faraz Ziam?
Yeah, I think you have to be. I think he knows which areas of his game he needs to improve. And that being his wrestling, his takedown defense, and his just overall physical strength. I think that he worked on all of those things and has been improving them. So good for him for doing that. I also think that Jai Herbert is like one of those guys that just again, it's you don't want to be going like 34, 35, 36-year-old taking guys that just get finished every fight that they lose. Just pretty much they're just like nightmares to bet on. Like the guys that you just like they're winning. They're really good fighters. Like so the problem is like Jai's as a solid striker, like he's not terrible when it comes to, but then you look at just like his flaws are just so huge that it's just you can't ignore them. So I think that for us, Ziam in this fight has more paths to win. I feel like it's a really tricky fight because if you try to attack the decision or, if you're trying to attack like the KO lines or round props or something like that, like I might take a shot on some round props, maybe thinking that, like you said, the first round is like a little bit of a staring contest and then he gets a little bit more aggressive. Ferris is typically not a guy that's going to go balls to the wall early. He's going to get his reads and stay defensively responsible. He's got 71% striking defense. He just doesn't like firefights. So I kind of need
stat, by the way. That's an insanely impressive stat at being that high. Like you never see numbers like that, right?
That's 70%. Elite. Yeah, that's elite. So I mean, it's not only is it elite defensively, it also shows, like I'm saying, like you have to not be the type of fighter that wants to get hit. Like if you can be like an elite fighter that wants to get hit is like low 60s. And you're still saying like that's incredibly elite, and you're like, oh, this guy gets into firefights, and you still can't hit him, like most of the time. So, yeah, I think that for us, Ziam, like probably 2-3 maybe, or like I'm heartbroken, and he wins a decision. Just and you're looking at Jai Herbert and you're saying like, oh, he lasted this time. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's just one of those fights where I just don't know if I'm going to touch it because of a prop. But I feel like I actually kind of lean with the boring decision. I kind of lean that way, actually. I think that he's going to probably stay safe and just keep pointing him out. And if he needs a takedown, maybe, or some clinch, that he tries that. But yeah, I kind of lean by a decision for us as well.
Yeah, and the overs on this one, we're looking at over 2.5 at -150 at this point. How do you feel about that? I mean, that does cover the boring decision. That covers burning time off the clock in a staring contest, seeing who's going to make the first mistake at range. The only thing that stops me from that is like the Jai Herbert durability issues that I brought up before. That's really about it. But I mean, Ziam is not really a guy who's flashing a lot of power, but it could be possible here.
Yeah, like we said, like you just said, it's really tricky. I would lean decision, but you just don't know based on the durability of Herbert. So yeah, I don't think it's one of those that you're making a confident play unless you see a really, really good line, and there's not really, really good lines here.
Yeah, Nora Ashley talking about the over 2.5 as well. Yeah, I think it's Justin Vegas saying Herbert is a bum, just like Justin Herbert. Who's Justin Herbert? Who's that?
Quarterback for the Chargers.
Oh, gotcha, man. I don't get these football references, man. I'm like, which fighter? I'm like, which fight league do they fight in? I don't recognize that name.
Yeah, somebody asked me my T-shirt. This is Arya Stark from Game of Thrones.
Gotcha.
Going for the kill.
There you go. All right. Well, that's that should be look. I've seen people go back and forth with if they like that fight or not. I think Faraz Ziam is very intriguing to see how he performs at such a young age. He's got a lot of promise, obviously big for the weight class like Herbert is. So I'm excited for the fight. I have low expectations with how it's going to play out. I think they're both going to be kind of hesitant here. But two guys that won't be hesitant most likely are the middleweights in the next bout. Andre Muniz taking on Paul Craig. Grappler versus grappler at 185. This is another one of these weird weight class changes for Paul Craig, who's been pretty consistent and pretty busy and active at the light heavyweight division. This is the first time in his whole pro career he goes down to 185. And this guy was already fairly lean at 205. So big weight cut. It's coming off the heels of a couple of back-to-back losses, getting hammer-fisted in round 1 by Johnny Walker, getting embarrassed and out-decisioned by Volkan Ozdemir before that. So this is one of those like weight class changes to, revitalize your career, and that's never a good spot to be in. Especially dropping 20 pounds. Not even like it's lightweight to featherweight or something like that. This is a full 20-pound jump. He takes on fellow grappler Andre Muniz, who, I mean, BJJ versus BJJ. I mean, Muniz, I think he's probably better, right? I mean, he's a guy who tapped out, not even tap out, just broke the arm of Jacare in half. He's got good wrestling, better than Paul Craig. He's got good striking, I'd say, more competent than that of Paul Craig. So I'm on the Andre Muniz side, but I mean, how many times have we seen people that we think are going to walk through Paul Craig? He pulls up, a submission out of his ass. We're looking at Andre Muniz -220, Paul Craig +185 on the money line. Both guys largely finishers. I am taking just a 1-unit stab in the under in this spot, which you can get at the under 2.5 at -200. I got it at -220. I did overpay for that just out of excitement, just because these guys don't go to the scorecards very often. Now, is it possible that Muniz can take him down and just play safe? Sure. I mean, we saw Paul Craig against Volkan Ozdemir, same thing. He just wanted to play jiu-jitsu. Volkan Ozdemir wanted none of it and just took him to a decision. That's possible, but I think with these guys' finishing capacity, I'm liking the under here. So I'm on the Muniz side. I think he could finish Paul Craig here. I want to see Paul Craig on the scales, though. I want to see if he passes out Stoliarenko style, or if he makes the weight cut, pretty well. So who do you have in this one, man? Do we see another triangle choke at the hands of Paul Craig?
I kind of think like Paul Craig is like round 3 or bust in this fight.
Yeah.
Like
round three, 1 second left or bust.
Yeah, like I really, yeah, exactly. Like you said, I mean, you hit a bunch of points. He's 35 years old. He's dropping 20 pounds to 185. I think it's really important to also say, like, taking somebody that has his style of jiu-jitsu, or just a jiu-jitsu practitioner in general, in lightweight or heavyweight, and saying like this guy's an average, he's pretty good at jiu-jitsu, and you're like, okay, well now he's really good in jiu-jitsu because he's a light heavyweight, or he's very good in jiu-jitsu because he's a heavyweight. And it's like the level of it's way more valuable because they're not that good, and there aren't that many people that know how to do these types of practices and or defenses. And it's like, and they have to know what to do immediately. And then you have guys that are fucking huge on top of you. So it's like, there's so many different factors of why you get guys that are like 135s and 125s and 145, and you're like, these guys are scrambling, and you're like, okay, yeah, there's a million transitions because they're just like, they can throw this guy over them like it's nothing. It's like, you don't get that in light heavyweight and heavyweight when you get grappling. So
and you don't see a lot of guys with that dexterity. We'll talk about somebody in the main event who's got that same kind of ability at a heavyweight class. You just don't see. It's a scary sight when you go to these grappling competitions and see guys that are even purple belts and above that are heavyweights. I mean, they're a different breed of people with that kind of flexibility and ability to get in weird positions and tap people out. It's a scary sight.
Absolutely. That's 100% my point. So, and then when you take into account that, okay, so if you're going just basic jiu-jitsu of these two guys, Muniz is so much better. It's not even close. If you put these guys in a gi and you have them have a competition, he works him. And if you have like comparatively, like just win to win as what they've done in Brazilian jiu-jitsu competitions, like one is significantly better than the other. Now when you add its MMA, and then there's going to be striking, there's going to be like just completely different, not just jits only. It's like, okay, like who's a better striker between the two? It's like Muniz is. Like who's got better cardio? They both have dog shit cardio. Neither one of them has really great cardio. I would give a slight edge to Craig, but it's just not great. Neither one of them has really good cardio. Muniz, like the Allen fight is that's where I think you're getting a discount from the like people thinking that Craig is really live to finish him by sub. Like the sub on Muniz by Brendan Allen is like the Fluffy Hernandez sub on Rodolfo Vieira. It's like, if you put these guys in, if you put Fluffy Hernandez in a gi versus Rodolfo Vieira, he gets subbed like 95% of the time. Like it's just it's not a competition. Like he gets worked. But if you say this is a fight and it's now all the MMA and you're mixing all these arts together, it's a completely different game. And then you're saying it's 15 minutes as opposed to 7, or is it different game? Like this is not like it's just
I think the biggest and worst example that we've seen of that is Kron Gracie against Charles Jourdain. Like the skill, that might be the biggest mismatch in skill I've ever seen in like modern day UFC as far as like discipline per discipline, right? Like Kron Gracie is like next level legend on the mat, but it's in his sport. It's when he's got, however long they've gotten grappling to like cook the guy out, not 5 minutes, and then you got to break it up. So yeah, you're totally right. It's a different.
I had Jourdain by points in that fight. Because I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, dude, he could just take him down and just potentially lay, or just keep it range, not take him down at all, and you can never know what you're going to get. It's the same thing. You just don't know what you're going to get from these guys. And you have Muniz that gassed, and the reason that Rodolfo Vieira got tapped was because he gassed. Like That's why Muniz got tapped. It wasn't because Brendan Allen is a better jiu-jitsu practitioner. Like it just isn't. Like he's a better scrambler. He's got way, way, way better, 10 times better cardio. And his cardio allowed him to do that. So the fact that was what happened in that particular fight. So I feel like Muniz in this fight is the play. I feel like, I don't even know that this fight happens. We could be talking for 10 minutes on this fight that this fight doesn't even happen because he can't make the weight or something happens. So yeah, I feel like Muniz is the side. I feel like Muniz inside the distance, probably in the first 2 rounds. Could be a KO too, could be a sub. So yeah, would probably lean sub, but I wouldn't be surprised if he KO'd him either.
Yeah, that's why I'm taking the unders. Now you've got me worried about the Paul Craig round 3 cashing over the 2.5 round mark in that last little couple of seconds, Magomed Ankalaev style. So I'm worried about that. But yeah, we're on the same side of that one. Both very explosive guys too. So I can see the cardio concerns on both sides. But with the weight class being a big consideration here against Paul Craig, I'm even more confident in Allen in this spot. So got nothing but the violence bet so far, but we're both on Muniz here early. But man, featherweight bout up next. This is going to be a really fun fight. One of my most anticipated fights on the whole card. And I'm still looking for a way to bet this. Nathaniel Wood versus Andre Fili, 145-pound bout. And Nathaniel Wood, this is a guy that has like a pretty good weight class change that's in his favor, right? He's looked very good. This will be his third time up at 145, former bantamweight champion back in Cage Warriors. And this guy's got very good striking. He's got very good wrestling, a very good ability to blend the two in a very fluid way. He is only 5'6", I believe, but his reach is that of like closer to a 6 foot tall guy. So he can really spring back and forth in and out of range well. He can jab off your face, hit you with combos you don't think are going to reach you at his short frame. I like the way that he does everything here. His output is super, super high as well. Andre Fili, I think, he's a good guy. He's just kind of inconsistent, and to his credit, he has faced a lot of guys in the last 10 years, like Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar, Michael Johnson, like a lot of really good veterans that you don't really fault him for coming up short to, but at the same time, his momentum is always disrupted, and sometimes he gets knocked out by guys like Brito, or takes losses that maybe he should have won on paper. But he's coming off that split decision win over Bill Algeo, where he largely was able to control in round 3 to steal that one. I just think he's outmatched in this fight. So where the money line is at, Tim, do you agree with the fact that it's minus 190 to minus 210 Nathaniel Wood? Or do you think that Andre Fili being plus 170 here is a bit off? Do you think that's disrespectful for Fili, or do you think this is about right?
I think it's a little bit wide. I think it's a trap. I think it's slightly trappish by the line, situation where, like.
Nice line, Sicky. Nice line on that one. Minus 175 Wood. Got value already. Good job.
That's kind of where I think the fight, like 170 to 165, 170 range. That's where I lean it to be. So I think that's a accurate line. So where it's at now, I just feel like it's been bet up and people have seen it and they just or they're putting them in parlays and then it's just going up even more. So, I probably lean Wood by decision. Maybe by split, but I just feel like Fili's going to present different issues for him that he's just from his size. Like I just feel like he's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage and he's going to be 5 inches taller. So getting into the pocket and getting off the volume advantage that you usually see from Wood, and that's usually the edge that he has striking, is not going to be as easy for him to get off when he's going to have to get into range against somebody that has that big of a range advantage on him, height wise as well as reach. So I don't know. Fili also has fights where he fights close and he does get some of his damage off. So I don't know. I don't see Wood losing a decision in the UK. So I feel like even if he loses, I feel like he'll still win, kind of like Lerone Murphy did last time. Give me Wood to win a decision.
Yeah, I like him here, especially just the way that he gets, because Andre Fili can get stuck, even with his long measurables. He can get stuck in the pocket and kind of taking shots that he shouldn't, whereas Nathaniel Wood is super slick about getting in range, landing his combos, getting back out of range, circling off and resetting, which I love. And that helps with his striking defense. That helps him really, cruise past people with the significant strike totals as well. He lands on them with a nice, 3-piece combo resets. They can't really have a chance to counter him too well. His leg kicks also are going to be probably a big weapon in this fight against Andre Fili. You see him, especially against, remember Charles Rosa basically becoming a cripple in that fight by round 3 against Nathaniel Wood.
How did you make Charles Rosa? That was pain.
Yeah, that was horrible. And that was exactly a year ago, back at the Blades Aspinall card.
Round 2, round 3 props on Wood. Pain equals pain.
Yeah, especially when you see him dropping, you're like, just let Herb Dean stop this. Let Mercy stop this.
Is like, oh my God, what are we doing here?
Yeah, the squeamish Herb Dean. So here's a question. I know I was almost hoping that you would get a little bit more freaky with this fight, to be honest, and think like, okay, maybe we've seen a lot of decision results from Nathaniel Wood, but maybe this is the chance we see some of that one-punch knockout power back from Cage Warriors, or we see some of the club and sub ability from early in his career with his submissions. Like, is there no room for that?
Yeah, I think that the latter is more likely, to be honest. Like, I feel like if he's, I think that the grappling is going to be there more likely. Like I think that like versus the bonk ability, I don't think that he hasn't shown like that as much translating to like knockout power. Whereas I think the jiu-jitsu and I think the grappling edge that he might have a solid edge in that respect in this fight. So that would be kind of like if they hang a sneaky wide line on the sub for him
plus 700.
It's not bad. Like I would also think it'd be like sub 2 or sub 3 because I don't think it's going to be something that would be his first plan of attack. I think it would be something that would be an adaptation to this is not working, or like this is going to be there because he's doing this and his corner sees something. So I would think it'd be like round 2, round 3, or getting him tired, and then I like getting going for takedowns, or seeing he has some early success maybe at the end of the round and getting at the end of the first round he gets a takedown. He's like, oh, that was pretty easy. Maybe I could actually get some takedowns on this guy, and it's like in just one of those secondary kind of strategies or tactics. And I think I would lean that way on sub way more than KO.
That's what I had written down, was to look for the sub prices. It's plus 950 Wood by sub on FanDuel. Round two plus 3,200 for sub with Wood. Nathaniel Wood sub 3 plus 3,900 on FanDuel. Yeah, they're going crazy with those props. When it's something he's done before multiple times, kind of made a name for himself with those submissions. I mean, out of his 14 finishes, 5 of them are by submission, 3 of them at the UFC level. So yeah, I think that's what stuck out to me, because like you said, that's his biggest like disparity in skill, is the ability to get the fight to the mat and kind of just crawl all over your back, go for the front choke series as well. I like that spot for him here. So maybe I'll sprinkle on that. We'll see. But those stand out to me there. I'm just waiting for the chance that Nathaniel Wood comes back to like being a finisher again. Maybe that day will come on Saturday. I'm not quite sure.
I hope it's by sub, because I think I might have to bet those lines.
Yeah, they're crazy. Look at the FanDuel ones, man.
The FanDuel one is the one I was agreeing with you.
But we move on to the co-main event. Everybody hit the like, hit the sub. Hope you guys have been enjoying the show. The great Tim Troiano, thank you for being here. It's been an awesome time breaking down fights with you. We got 2 more to go. We are 13 down. What a grind this has been. But we are at the co-main event at women's flyweights. We got Molly McCann taking on Julia Stoliarenko. And what seems to me, Tim, is like a clear setup fight for Molly McCann here in front of a hometown crowd. And this is a spot where, again, another confusing weight cut where we've got Julia Stoliarenko, who's been as high as featherweight. She's, I remember a year and a half ago, or when was that? Was it a year and a half ago or 2.5 years ago, when she was trying to fight Julia Avila, and she fainted on the scales like twice. Like she went up on the scales, almost fell on her ass trying to make 135. They sat her down, got her some water. She stood back up like, I'm fine. And then she fell over again. And that was for 135. Now she makes 125 after just losing to Chelsea Chandler by round 1 knockout at a 140 catch weight. So the 30-year-old Lithuanian, not even a submission specialist, but an armbar specialist, 9 wins by submission, all of them by round 1 armbar. Of course, I took a quarter. I just a 0.2 unit sprinkle, just $20 on the round 1 submission at plus 675 for Julia Stoliarenko. Again, FanDuel dropped it at plus like 800, plus 850, something like that. So in a spot that's probably her money line, if Molly McCann gets her short little meatball arm stuck in the guard of Julia Stoliarenko early, that will be the spot. But overall, Molly McCann, a brawling striker, should be able to just stick and move and probably knock out Julia Stoliarenko, who's got very, very poor striking defense. It's just one of those predictable things where it's like, if you can just avoid this one maneuver, you should win the fight. So I'm a little sketched out. I see a lot of people just taking that strategy on Stoliarenko. I know the line was mispriced. It's taken a lot of heat now, a lot of action. We got Molly McCann all the way down to minus 190 when just 4 days ago she was minus 280 on some books. So I get the line movement. I get Molly McCann shouldn't be that big of a favorite to anybody, but come on. In this spot here, like I parlayed her up with somebody in the main event. Probably can guess who that is for 2.5 units. So I'm thinking these 2 setup fights for these 2 participants should cash that parlay. Tim, are you a big Stoliarenko fan? Do you think she pulls this out of her ass, Paul Craig style, or do you think Molly rolls here?
I think that this fight doesn't even happen. Honestly,
That's a better bet. That's like minus 110 at least.
yeah, I don't think this fight happens. Like you said, I mean, she's had legit medical issues trying to get to 135. She's fought at 145. Like, this is not a small girl, and she's going to try to fight at 3 different weight classes in a year. It's really not easy to do. So, I mean, like, let's get. I mean, I'm with you. I'm on the McCann side. Like, now the other side would be, does McCann finish her? And if she does finish her, what round do you think she finishes her in? Or do you think that it's possible that Julia can last? Is it possible that Julia's a quitter and McCann sub is some absurd line? Like, I think Sean Orr was saying that plus 3,600 on sub 2 and plus 5,000 on sub 3. Banking on the fact, and Stoliarenko's been subbed before too. You're banking on the same thing happening, that she gets her down and then she tries to roll for something and it doesn't get it, and then she's stuck on bottom, and then maybe there's like a club and sub type of, or like elbows and then back, something like that. There's not a lot of, it's not like the last fight where I'm saying, oh, those are, I like those lines for Wood, but I just think that, like you said, Stoliarenko round 1, maybe early round 2, she's going to have a huge size advantage on her. Molly McCann has been controlled 30% of the time she's been on the ring. That's not good. Takedown defense is poor. It's 45%. That's also not good. Is it possible that this is like, I think that's where people are looking at plus 250, plus 260 and saying, this is I have to bet this. And, I don't think that, I'm not on that board. I don't think that it's a have to bet this type of situation. I don't think Julia Stoliarenko is ever a have to bet type of fighter. I kind of lean McCann.
That's not a hot take either, I don't think.
Yeah, right. I think, yeah, exactly. I don't think that Stoliarenko.
I'm never going to get this chance again. I have to do it now.
Well, I might never. She might be out of the UFC soon. No, I'm with you, man. I think that McCann probably knocks her out in round 2 or round 3. But yeah, no bets for me on this one so far. I might put her in a parlay with some of the UK people I think are going to win, and Tom and all that stuff.
That's what I did. We'll get to the main event in the next fight, but yeah, I do have Molly McCann in that parlay for 2.5 units. I think and I could have gotten it at minus 190, man. I got greedy. I took that parlay already at minus 220. So not losing out too much in that one, but I did take that 0.2 unit sprinkle on the Stoliarenko plus 675 round 1 sub. Like I said, that is that plus 850 on FanDuel right now too. And that's her only proven way she's really ever won a fight besides one decision, which was a while back. And it was, once again, that was a split decision result there up at featherweight. So I got to say, part of the reason I put that in, if you're watching, my guy, Blood Money MMA Bets, my guy, Cody, I mean, he's a killer. He picks really good bets all the time. And he put down that mispriced line, I think like plus 280 on Stoliarenko or something like that. So that's where I'm like, man, if Cody's seeing something here, a lot of times his crystal ball is plugged in. I better ensure myself in that round 1 sub. But hopefully it doesn't happen, man. I think Molly McCann meatballs her way to like a first round knockout here. So hopefully by spinning elbow. Wouldn't that be hilarious? Every time she's in London, she hits a spinning elbow for the knockout. Luana Carolina, Hannah Goldie, and now Stoliarenko all added to that spinning elbow club. But we move on to the main event at heavyweight, the return of Tom Aspinall taking on Marcin Tybura. Tom Aspinall is super, super impressive, man. He was 5-0 before that horrific knee injury against Curtis Blades, and I'm so mad that fight didn't play out because it was an intriguing match between Curtis Blades, who's a very good wrestler, Tom Aspinall, who's a good jiu-jitsu player and striker. And I got to say, I thought Tom Aspinall was going to win that fight, especially looking at like how Curtis Blades has been doing recently, getting into these striking matches with people. I don't think that would have ended well for him against Tom, who's got very, very fast hands, super athletic guy, still a young at 30 years old, and he's got everything you would want except for the proven cardio. We just don't know how that's going to look. He's never been outside of round 2 and rarely ever even getting there, right? So most of the time he's starching people inside of 1 round. Marcin Tybura, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite, right? This guy is not some physical specimen at heavyweight, but He's a guy who can really weed out the trash at the division, and guys that are trying to, get a fast start on him, he can outlast them, and he can take them into deep waters with his just busy striking, and somehow he's got decent cardio compared to the rest of the normal slobs you see at this weight class. So winning 7 of his 8 last heavyweight bouts at the UFC level for Tybura, that's nothing to sneeze at. But still, Tom Aspinall is all the way at like minus 450. You've got Marcin Tybura about plus 350, the underdog. Kick it to me, Tim. Who do you have in this one, and how do they get the job done?
Tom, by round 1 or 2, should be able to finish.
Nice.
Should be able to finish Marcin. This is a bad matchup for Marcin. I just think that he's going to face a dude that's not going to be easy to grapple and clinch and cage push and do his thing. He's just way, way, way too athletic and too explosive. Loves countering in those situations as well. It's like the takedown that he got on Volkov. Liam was talking about this on his pod earlier in the week. It's just like, it's such an athletic move, but it's also like, it's so technical that he, ducks out of the way and then times basically the perfect position to get the double leg and just explode. It's like he's waiting for that. Like it's not like it's just like a reaction. He's like, no, this is the plan. I'm gonna get into this range and I'm gonna wait for this. And the second that I see it, I'm gonna probably have this chance. And he hit it so perfectly. So I feel like a guy that couldn't get down Volkov out of like 15 or 16 tries, and one guy that gets him down in like his first try easily, and then finishes him, and you're like, and then that's the path for the other guy to beat the one guy. It's like, no, I don't see it. Like, he's not winning a striking fight against him. Like, I feel like the way that Tybura wins this fight is the unknowns, that the cardio unknowns that we haven't seen, like round 3, round 4, round 5 version, and that Marcin lasts through the first 2 rounds. If that happens, then I'm actually happy that if that happens, like, I'll probably lose a bet, but at least we'll get the chance to see and get some data on Tom in the round 3, 4, 5 range. But I don't think it gets there, but I would like to see him. I'd like to be able to see if the guy can perform, and if he does, totally death gas, and people, like, they always make these assumptions that, oh, we haven't seen this guy fight. He's a first, round 1 finisher, and it's like, yeah, he's a round 1 finisher. Does that mean that he doesn't have cardio? No, it's not predictive yet. We don't have data on it, right. So.
Or does it mean he just ran through Jake Collier, Alain Baudot, an old 42-year-old Arlovsky, which was a
Almeida. Right, Almeida treatment. So you can't like, these guys are finishers in round 1 and round 2. Like, you can't punish them for being that. If you can find somebody that can live and last with them till round 3, then we'll see how they fight in round 3. They might be able to finish somebody in round 3 too. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. If this goes, I mean, there's nothing in Aspinall's game other than his activity and explosive nature that would make me think that maybe things won't get better for him as the later this fight goes. But I don't think he would death gas any more than Tybura slows down. It's just when Tybura slows down, his opponents just happen to be slowing down a lot more than him. But I think Aspinall is in that level of heavyweight where it is like a champion level guy, like a guy like Cain Velasquez, a guy like Junior Dos Santos, a guy like Arlovsky in his prime who had fast hands and good grappling as well. These guys are often at the top 5, like, just they're able to move like normal human beings, not fat pieces of shit like the rest of the heavyweight division, really. So it's exciting to see one of these guys come back. Hopefully his knee doesn't blow back out. Floyd Mayweather, good to see you, man. Tim's hairline's looking pretty good. I don't know what you're talking. Mine I have to erase so that you don't really know where it ends or begins, so that's how I get out of these hairline battles you guys are always bringing up here. But good to see you, Floyd. We got 2 cents manifesting Tom by sub here, but not overthinking it. I'm thinking the same thing, right? Aspinall KO. I think because Tybura has been starched early in certain fights before, and late for that matter. I don't think it's going to even, like, what happened when Aspinall needed the 1 sub he got. Well, he got the sub on Volkov. That was a pretty slick maneuver that you brought up. The one on Arlovsky ate a bunch of strikes in round 1 and was in all sorts of danger, but it managed to stretch out to round 2 somehow. And then he got that awesome double leg against the cage. Remember that? Just got around his neck within like a couple seconds.
That's the Arlovsky. I call it the Arlovsky tap.
Yeah,
it's all you have to do is just go like this, And it's like you don't even have to have a hook in. You don't have to have the second arm in. You can have a single arm, no hooks. Just get it close, and he'll tap really quick.
Yeah, just like he did against what's his face, DeLima recently too.
Every time, man. He's very, very good at doing that. So yeah, I don't think that the line for sub is good. It's like it's way too low. Going against a guy that has very, very good jiu-jitsu, and you're banking it on like a club and sub scenario. I don't think it's like a scenario that he's going to go out and try to proactively try to take down Marcin. So it's just like it doesn't make sense to put like plus 250 on a line like sub. Just in my opinion, like I'm just going to take a shot on the round 1 and round 2 just in general and not worry about KO or sub and just kind of cover both. I think he finishes him in the first 10 minutes. So
yeah, Aspinall money line on DraftKings, same game with the over half of a round, over 2.5 minutes. That cuts it down to minus 180. But even that, I've got my reservations about. Like that cuts it down, but it's like, dude, he could do it within like a minute.
Give minus 180 on that, he could kill him in the
exactly. He could do it like within a minute. So I was trying to find ways to chop down this number, but I'm just going to take the good matchup here. I parlayed it up with Molly McCann for I got minus 131 on that parlay for 2.5 units. It's 2 spots I think at the end of the card are just set up for them to look good. So I like that very much. But yeah, I mean, we did it, Tim. All 15 fights. Shout out to Best UFC Picks and Bets. They're guaranteeing the under 1.5 in the main event, which I do like, and the Muradov money line, which I like as well. That's not a bad spot there. I wonder what that is combined, because you've got minus 165 to minus 170 in the main event under, and you've got Muradov at like minus 320 right now. So yeah, that might not be a bad spot, and I think both of those are a pretty good chance there. So thank you for stopping by. Everybody in the chat, you guys have been awesome. All 20, whatever of you in the chat. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Make sure you guys follow my guy Tim Troiano on Twitter. Make sure you guys watch the Lambo Plays podcast, which he co-hosts on Narco Cops channel on Friday nights. And Tim, shout out where people can find you on the live spaces on Twitter and what you got going on.
Yeah, on like you said, with Narco on Fridays, and then Sean Orr and I do a live. We do a Twitter Spaces, just doing kind of what we did here, breaking down the whole card. Not as much props, but kind of like where's the line at the last second before the fight? Is there any value on anything now? And give our best bets at the end of the show, and then I hit up Narco Cups live spaces where we get a lot of the live bets during the fights.
Yeah, very good. And it's super useful. You guys are obviously very insightful, and you guys cash tickets, winning tickets every single week, super transparent. And it is fun to have those shows like the Lambo Plays, one you do with Narco at a Friday night, right? So it's not like you had to get in on these bets like 2 weeks ahead of time. Now you're struggling to try to, copy what your favorite handicapper has done, and you can't get those same lines. You guys are doing things like right in the real time of when you're going to get those same lines. So I do like that. And you guys are super knowledgeable. So once again, I always appreciate having access to your brain, dude. Yeah, I love the way you break down fights. It's always a good time. So thank you, everybody in the chat. Best of luck this weekend. I will be back for my best bets and props. All my bets finalized the next day or two. And check out Johnny K. Picks' channel on Saturday. We'll be going live for the entire fight stream, doing a fight companion there. Just smoking cigars, drinking whiskey, and, nervously, hopefully cashing our bets. But if it goes up in flames, that's always fun too. So I'll see you guys there. And good luck in all your betting action. Cheers.